Have you ever heard of Wilburn Street? Probably not. It doesn't show up on most maps. It's in an old, secluded neighborhood where cracked asphalt blends with roots that seem older than the city itself. Wooden poles, hanging wires, cracked windows, rusted signs covered in moss. It's a place where silence feels heavier than air, and footsteps echo even when no one walks. And at the end of that street, there has always been a house, a dark, unmoving structure. And yet it's never quite still. Longtime residents talk about it with the same certainty one speaks of the moon. It's always there, but never in the same place. There are no moving trucks, no cranes, no sounds of construction, just a shared sensation. It's closer today than it was yesterday. A centimeter, a step, a breath. By the time they notice, no one can say exactly where it started. The phenomenon was first noticed by someone with enough patience or fear to pay attention. A local resident whose identity was never revealed began taking pictures of the street every day from the same window, at the same time, with the same framing. The photos revealed subtle changes. A gate shifted, a tree covered in shadow too early in the day, crack in the pavement stretching toward the house. The structure at the end of the street was silently invading the surrounding space, with no noise, no haste. Measurements confirmed it. 79 meters from his porch to the house's gate. 2 weeks later, 76, a month later, 72. And asked, the man would only say, "She's coming." No one knew if he meant the house, or something inside it. Over time, he stopped going outside, covered all his mirrors, moved his bed, and before disappearing, he wrote on his walls, "If you look at it too long, it changes direction." The scariest part wasn't the house approaching. It was that no one knew who built it. The city records were blank. No blueprints, no owner name, no official photographs. The house simply was. People avoided walking near it, as if their bodies sensed something their minds couldn't grasp. At night, they said, a dim light flickered on the second floor, even without a power line connected. And the neighborhood dogs who barked at anything would go silent the moment it lit up, as if something silenced them, something bigger, something that doesn't want to be seen, but watches back. And those who stare at it too long wake up the next day with the house closer to their window than ever, as if it had chosen them as its next stop. It wasn't an investigator who noticed the second pattern. It's not a police officer or technician. It was a child, an 8-year-old boy living at house number 52 across the street. He would draw the street every day at school with black and gray pencils, and always included the house at the end. At first, the house appeared small, distant, just part of the background. But after a few weeks, his teachers noticed it was taking up more space on the page, until one drawing showed the house in the center, with a title written in shaky, childlike letters. "She wants to come in." No one knew what it meant. When asked, the boy simply replied, "She told me she's almost here." His parents thought it was imagination. A creative kid, maybe influenced by movies or stories overheard. But that same week, strange things started to happen. The kitchen clock reset to 3:03 a.m. every night. The baby monitor rewound its footage, as if time was reversing. On the wall of the boys' room, round stains appeared, like eyelids peeled open, all facing the window. They painted over them. They came back. They moved the bed. The boy cried, saying that was the only place she couldn't reach. One night, they found him standing at the window, silent, his back turned. He whispered, "Tonight she passed the tree." The next morning, the tree across the street, an old fig tree planted over 50 years ago, was tilted. Not fallen, just pushed, as if something had pressed against its base. The roots were torn, the ground cracked, and for the first time, the shadow of the house at the end of the street reached the sidewalk of number 52. No noise, no drag marks. But neighbors' cameras recorded something strange. The footage between 3:01 and 3:17 a.m. was corrupted. Blank files. The boy didn't go to school that day, or the next. And when his parents called him for breakfast, they found his room empty. On the bed, there was only one new drawing. The house, with the door open, and no one outside. With the boy's disappearance, the street finally caught the attention of local media. But like most small towns, the story faded quickly, buried under official versions. Police claimed he had run away, maybe with help. The school filed away the drawings. The tree was cut down, but the house remained, and it was closer. An old neighbor who never spoke to reporters started covering all her mirrors with black cloth and sprinkled coarse salt over her doorways. When asked why, she only said, "It's been inside before." No one knew what that meant until reports began to surface of locked doors opening on their own at 317. Clothes moved, muffled sounds behind walls, not screams, just scratching, like fingernails trying to find something on the other side. A resident who had installed security cameras noticed his footage became corrupted at the same time every night. But what disturbed him more was seeing that the house, in some clips, appeared closer than in others, even though nothing outside had changed. He compared frames, angles, visual references. He realized the house was getting closer in silence, but its shadow didn't follow any light source, as if the shadow wasn't being cast, but was coming from within. One night, he aimed a thermal camera at the street. At 317, the house lit up in intense red, and behind it, for a split second, something moved. It wasn't human, but it wasn't animal either. The next morning, the camera had partially melted inside. There was no overheating, no power surge. It's just a renamed memory card labeled, "You're watching too." After that, he left town without notice. His house sold far below market value. And the new owner, once skeptical, started complaining about dreams. Always the same. The street, the house, the door opening, and a voice whispering, "Now it's you." As the weeks passed, the house's movement became impossible to ignore. Photos taken over the years by neighbors revealed a disturbing truth. It had advanced more than 20 meters in the last decade, yet no official map showed any change. On Google Maps, it remained in the same spot. But those who lived nearby knew better. Time around the house obeyed a different logic. Plants died quickly near it. Sounds were muffled, and the air felt heavier, like every molecule carried a memory no one wanted. One resident reported waking up gasping for breath and found his bedroom window fogged. On the glass, a symbol was drawn. He wiped it. The next night it came back, again and again. Little by little, residents began to move out. But not out of fear they could name. It was like a quiet exhaustion crept in, as if rest became impossible, even while asleep. Some claimed they felt they were being dreamed, as if the house was creating versions of them while they slept. A woman woke screaming after dreaming. The house was inside her living room, literally inside, bursting through the walls. When she got up, the floorboards were pushed upward, as if something had tried to enter. She moved out that week. The new tenant vanished after 30 days. He left only a note taped to the mirror. She est in every reflection now. A deeper silence fell over the street. The city council installed new lights, paved the road, repainted the curbs, but the house remained, and it kept moving. Most recently, an electrician reported that his GPS refused to register the end of the street. Every time he approached, the system froze, and static filled the radio. A whisper, barely audible, repeating a number. Always the same, 317. The man quit his job, said he still hears the number in the quiet. Said sometimes it comes from inside the house. Said no one should walk to the end of Wilburn Street. Said before he vanished too. Today, the house is no longer at the end of the street. It's in the middle. It occupies a space that once belonged to the empty gap between lots, and no one saw it happen. The windows remain boarded up with old planks, but there are signs of movement inside, shadows crossing, as if multiple presences now share the same space. Some residents swear they hear a dry knock 3 times at 3:17 a.m. Always 3, always in the same rhythm. When that happens, every streetlight on Wilburn Street goes out for exactly 17 seconds, and when they come back on, something is different. A new number on the door, an extra step in the staircase, a window where there was once a wall. It's if the house is trying to reorganize itself to look like yours. Some say the house isn't a house at all, that it's a thing, a being, a form of consciousness that took on the appearance of a structure to move through streets, cities, maybe even worlds. A kind of organism that feeds on memory, presence, and attention. That's why it moves faster when someone watches it. That's why the windows look like eyes, because maybe they are. Older residents claim they've seen this same house in other towns, with small differences, of course, an extra antenna, one less door. But the pattern is always the same. It appears at the end of a street, and when it reaches the center, something disappears. A resident, a memory, an entire part of the neighborhood that becomes nothing more than static in the minds of those who remain. They say the only way to stop it from getting closer is not to look, not to speak, not to name it. But now that you know, maybe it's too late. You heard about it. You thought about it. And the street where you live, doesn't it have an end too? Look out your window tonight. Check if all the houses are still in the same place. See if any structure looks closer than it should. And if at 3:17 the lights flicker, if the air feels heavier, if a shadow covers your gate, don't open the door, because the house everyone tries to forget already knows you know. And it always moves faster once it's noticed.